One of the things that I hear a lot from entrepreneurs here is in terms of hiring, like finding the right people and then retaining those people, because people tend to move quite quickly here.
Right.
What have you learned about hiring people? What kind of process do you bring people through in order to take them on board? And then what have you learned about keeping people that you want to keep?
Right, because one of the most challenging subjects, I would say, here in China, or maybe it's global, maybe it's in Asia, but in China all the more so. This is something I was telling even my friend last week, that human resources, is a big issue. There's one quote that I kind of am reminded of by a British educationalist called Sir Ken Robinson, and he said that we are currently facing two biggest crises in human history: the crisis of natural resources, the environment, and the crisis of human resources, people. And he says both these crises are really urgent, and they need to be dealt with the same severity, and they can be dealt in the same way. And I think very deeply about it, and I think it's such a strong statement and such a powerful statement, and it's a real issue, because you have a huge issue in, first of all, getting people, good people, and then keeping good people. And then the same thing with the environment. I mean, we don't appreciate the environment, we don't have a connection or bonding with the environment. And I think a lot of times it's really about, I think, creating that sense of belonging and creating that sense of bonding. I think one is to find the right person. That is hard for sure, and I think there are different ways you could do it, in your own hiring process. I think for us, as Green Initiatives and as Giga, especially with Green Initiatives, I think the fact that we are working on a kind of larger cause, it's not just for selling a plastic bottle, because we're already working on a larger cause. The people who reach out to us are naturally a lot more motivated, by the right reasons. So we have to do less scanning. So most the people that reach out to work with us are generally very, very nice people. So that's a good headache for us to kind of not have to deal with. The challenge usually is to keep them longer. And I think this is where it's so much about trust and flexibility. Like one of the reasons why my staff from last year left also was because she asked me for flexibility and I didn't give her. And I don't regret that, because I needed that kind of schedule from her, but she wanted to work from home once a week and so on and so forth, because she lived very far away. And I said, I'm sorry, right now, because you're the only person on the team, I need you every day. Because otherwise, if you're at home, it's going to be a hard time connecting and not being able to work together. And so that was my decision, and I still stick to it. But I think the times are really changing here, not just here, but even globally. I think a traditional way to look at an employee will not work anymore. It's not just about, hey, come to my office, work 9 to 5, take your money and go. It doesn't work anymore, I think. In most competitive businesses that really want to have a future, you really have to have a much deeper level of understanding and trust of your employee, a certain level of flexibility, and you have to give a sense of belonging, and you have to build that loyalty. And building that loyalty can never happen if you just expect them to come 9 to 5, work, get done, and get away. It'll never happen. There's a very, very interesting quote by Peter Drucker called, what he says is, a company is a living and learning institution. Unfortunately, most companies are not. Most companies, you go there, you do your stuff, you get done, and there's no bonding between your team, there's no bonding between your leader, there's no kind of exchange of emotions or good times and bad times. Once a year you have your annual dinner in some godforsaken place, and that's it, done. There is no deeper level of understanding. And for an employee, they're not learning much if you think about it, right? I mean, yes, they're giving away their skills, they're using their skills to do stuff to get you to make more money. But what are they getting? Apart from a salary at the end of the month, which they could get in any company, and that's what's happening all the time, right? They're getting a salary, someone else offers them a higher salary, and they leave the company. And that's where human resources is such a huge challenge here. But what else are you giving them as a company? What are you giving them to make them more loyal? Are you giving them opportunities to learn? Are you giving them opportunities to contribute to society? Are you giving them, a certain level of trust and flexibility? And I think this is where companies are lacking out, and we have to give that thing. And our program Seeds of Change, a lot is focused on that, because we realize it's much more profitable to pay attention to an employee and retain him than to let him go and hire a new one, right? And everyone in the industry knows that. But even then, companies are not doing enough about it. So, I mean, if we can create programs and activities and initiatives and a work environment where employees feel more appreciated, there's a little bit of flexibility, there's a little bit of trust, there's an opportunity to learn and grow as a person. How can I eat better? How can I live better? How can I work better? How can I do things better, right? Not just how can I do my Excel file better, right? I mean, how can I contribute more to society? If you are able to give them those kind of opportunities, which not just helps grow your business, but helps them grow as people, I think that's where the real missing point is, and not a lot of companies are doing that, and that's what we are trying to do a lot with green initiatives and with Seeds of Change and some of our activities, because we really feel that we have to give more to an average person working in a company. You have to give that more, and even for a leader, I think you need better leaders. I think unfortunately the reason why the world is in crisis, I feel partly, is because we have leaders the way they are. We need a new generation of better, ethical, responsible, and informed leaders. And we have to do that. So there's not much of an option, and I feel this is really a much better approach to doing things and having people.
So one of the things that no one can argue about China, and maybe Shanghai in particular, is the speed of business here, how fast things change.
Right.
And in some ways that can be an advantage, in some ways it can make things difficult.
Yeah.
So how do you, personally and professionally, keep up with the speed of change here?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the biggest issue here is that everything is, there are actually two extremes, right? On one hand, some things are too quick, and on the other hand, there are some things that are just too slow. And when you talk about just maybe it's just certain sectors or just certain ways of doing business. I mean, we were very, very clear that we didn't want any, like for green initiatives, for example, even though we started as a community group, then we became a non-profit, and now we're operating as a social enterprise. We are very, very careful in how we spend our time or how we spend our money and how we get our money. A lot of times what happens is when you've not worked hard to make that money that you've made, and the money comes very easily to you as an investment and so on, you spend it very easily as well. And I think that the same thing with business. A lot of times when your business grows very quickly, you kind of do things very quickly without any overall responsibility or goal or any long-term kind of vision. And I think that I see that as a huge, huge issue here. The reason why, everyone wants everything very, very quickly, but there's also a lot of money for everything. For anything that you want to buy or anything that you want to sell or any kind of company you want to set up, there's a lot of money available out there. And when you get a lot of free money, you spend a lot of money very quickly, and a lot of times businesses go bust very quickly as well. One of the biggest issues here is consistency. How many people do you meet every other day who've been here for a while? Most people come here a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, they're left, they're gone, right? But I think the biggest success factor here also is consistency and time. The longer you're able to stay here, the better you're able to do from a much more holistic perspective. A lot of people just come here, with a very, very short-term focus. So if you really have to be here, I think it's really about having a long-term focus and having a holistic focus. And this is again where I feel most companies fail, because most companies just come here to sell a product. They don't come here thinking, what is the value I'm offering? And I think sooner or later it's going to change. You will have to start offering better values, better lifestyle propositions for people, and just selling a product will not work. And I think that's a fact now. More and more companies are trying to be more sustainable, they're trying to do more CSR, they're trying to focus more on their employees. And I think for any company that comes here, it's really, really important. So I think speed at all costs will not work, and it's not a good thing according to me. You really have to pace your things up. You don't want to get burnt out. You don't want your people to get burnt out. Ultimately, your biggest assets are your people as well. And you want to make sure that you are, you're doing things in a certain kind of time frame, and not just rushing into things all the time. I mean, most people are rushing and focusing so much on sales and focusing so much on getting new clients and getting more money. Why? Because they want more money, because they think it'll make them more happy. But if they actually focus on running a business where people are happy every other day, they will not be pushing so much. Even yesterday, one of my friends reached out to me saying that, hey Nitin, by the way, I just left this company and I'm, I'll send you a new name card later. And I'm like, wow, that's the 4th or 5th person from that company who I knew personally has left the company. And I asked her, what is the reason for you leaving the company? Just too much focus on sales. And there's so much focus on sales, and there's so much of targets, it's too much pressure, I can't deal with it. And that's an issue in most companies, where you push so much on sales that you're burning your people out. and then you spend a lot of money hiring a new person who takes 6 months to warm up and get used to it, and 6 months later they leave as well. So it ties it then with speed and just so much focus on blatant profitability and sales. But if you re-look at your entire business and see what are the areas where we can actually maybe cut down on some expenses, how can we balance our kind of expenses more, and how can we give our staff a little bit more flexibility, maybe it'll do a lot better. But I think everyone has this idea of how much money they should be making, by what year, and they just, a lot of times in companies, you're just working so someone else can make the money, in that scenario.
And what would you say, specifically looking at sustainability in China, right? Whether it's from a big picture and the initiatives that the government are doing, or from a smaller sort of startup picture, what would you say are some of the untapped opportunities that still exist here in China if people wanted to get into that space?
I think sustainability is still just a tip of an iceberg here, very, very small. I mean, if you look at it, right, if you look at food, if you look at just consumables, there is not a lot of options. Everyone knows that organics are good for you, but there's still not enough everyday affordable options for you. And I feel that the biggest issue with sustainability in our generation, in our time, is that we make it so complicated, right? An average person doesn't care about global warming and climate change and this and that and all that stuff. Yes, as an expert, for you it's good, and yes, it's good for people to have an understanding of that. But sustainability is too big a word here, even in this country. And people don't understand sustainability. Even people who hold positions of sustainability managers in companies don't understand what sustainability means. And that's a big challenge. But I think if whatever we are selling or doing here can make sustainability simple, if you can simplify sustainability, if it can focus on making it more affordable, more accessible, more convenient, that's when it'll work, right? And I feel we don't have enough options for that right now. There are more and more things coming up, but it's still expensive. It's still looked at a niche stuff. So if we can do things that make sustainability much more affordable for people without actually talking about it as sustainability, I think people will do it. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here, a lot, it's still not tapped enough, not even a bit. So there's still a lot of opportunities in that, yeah. And I think from our side, that's why we've been focusing so much on education, because we want to be able to talk to people and show them how they can make better choices. So this is our end, right? We are showing them how they can make better choices. But at the end of it, we need these people to have better choices outside there as well. But there is not enough better choices out there. So there's a lot of companies that we need here in this country that can offer people better choices. I would say a greener version of Ulama, that's the biggest disaster, that's happening right now. A greener version of all these things, right? It's important and it's happening.
If you were to imagine coming to Shanghai or to China now, right, without the experience and the network and everything that you have, what advice would you have for yourself in that position, or someone who's looking at that as an option right now?
I would say budget 3 to 6 months of your life for just learning the language. That would be the number one thing to do. 6 months, 5 days a week, do it, and you will appreciate it for the rest of your life. And maybe you're coming here for an internship, maybe you're coming here for a job, but I think this is more applicable for people who want to, first of all, stay here for a long time, number one, and for people who look to start their business at some point of time. I think if you're in this category, then I think absolutely spend 3 to 6 months learning the language, in a proper kind of Fudan or Jiaotong University kind of thing. Now, if you're coming here just for a job, in a company, then do whatever you want, who the hell cares, right? Because you're here, get some money, take some money, go back, have fun, done, blah, blah, right? I think there are different kinds of people coming here for different reasons. I think the one important thing that is important for anyone coming here, I would say, is don't just think about what you can get out of China. I think, which is a common problem. Everyone who comes here thinks about what can I get out of China? It's the fastest growing economy in the world, there's so many people, there's so much stuff what can I get out of it, right? And think about what can you offer, And that's such a different way of thinking, because if you can offer something here, you can offer it anywhere. And I think we need more people who offer a positive value, as opposed to people who exploit stuff and exploit a kind of scenario and circumstance. And I think we need more people like that, who come here with a certain mindset of giving and contributing rather than taking and exploiting. So I think these would be a few things that I would say to someone.
So if someone's trying to find out more about your work, whether it's Giga or Green Initiatives or attending your events, what's the best place for them to find that, and how could they reach out to you personally?
So for me, I think the best way to reach out to me is they can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. If they go to LinkedIn and type my full name, Nitin Dani, they can find me there and they can connect from me there, and then it's easier to converse. I met some great people because of that, and I think as an organization, so we the Green Initiatives website is greeninitiatives.cn. So all the information is there, all the events, all the community activities are there. For Giga, if they go to www.giga.build, then they get all the information there as well. There's a link to the Reset website. There's a link to the materials platform that we run. So there's all the information there on there. But otherwise, if they connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to share with them all that information.
Thank you very much, Nitin. It was a fascinating conversation.
No, thank you so much. Yeah.